Let me introduce my great, and I say long-term mentor coaching client, Marti Hicks-forrest. Welcome back to the show.
Hello, hello.
Yes.
Good.
Go ahead.
Good, I guess, huh?
Yeah, I say welcome back because you've been on the show a little while ago, a success story. And we've been working, how long has it been now?
Almost
I think we're closing in on 3 years. Yeah, it's been a while. So, and I think that's important today to understand for people because I'm going to talk about your book in a second, but this is like your process has been an evolution, to say the least, right? And it's all been like every business is an evolution, but you're in the game and you're consistent in the game. But about maybe a month ago, 2 months ago at the most, you birthed a little baby called a book.
I did. It was literally birth. Yes.
Yes. So I'm proud to have a signed copy. It's time to wake the F up. Change doesn't happen while we are asleep. And I have a signed copy right here, signed. So I covet those, which I love that. And so this is a new book for you. So and here's the thing is, I want to talk about the book a little bit at the end, but I want to start off with, because people watching this are coaches and they're at all phases of their business. And a lot of them are like, oh, I want to write a book. I think every coach at some point thinks about writing a book, right? But there's two major different things between actually thinking about writing a book and actually writing a book and having it in print because it commits to it. So take us back, Marti, to what, 10 months? Well, no, it was actually December of last year, right?
When we started?
When we first talked about it, wasn't it? Or was it January?
When it was New Year's. It was the new year, and you asked us, what do you want to do this year? And you listed a few things, and the book was one of them.
Yes.
Well, so I have that whole visceral reaction when it's the thing I need to do next, where I just go, oh, I want to throw up. Like, I never do, of course, but that's my visceral, intuitive reaction that says, this is where you're going next. Yeah. That was about writing a book.
I remember that. So January of this year, actually, then. So, and what was the actual date? It was like October something that it came out, that you had it in your hands? Do you remember?
I don't remember the date. I remember the date I hit publish because it was 9 months, almost to the day.
Wow.
I thought, I published and I'm giving birth. And that's what, so that whole roller coaster ride of, I've not ever had a child, but having a child.
It certainly felt like it. So 9 months from decision, I'm going to write a book, to clicking the publish button. So, and this is good. I'm going to start people giving an idea of the time frames. I've had people do it in less time. I've had people do it in twice the amount of time. So there's no time frame that's right or wrong, but 9 months for this one. I mean, this is what is this, 180 page book. So it's got some good meat to it. So talk about that. You talk about that reaction. I remember, because I remember helping you like with the piece of like making it real. Talk about like the visceral reaction and what it was like committing to it, because you committed to it. Decided to me as black and white. It's yes or no. There's no gray area. So talk about that decision and what it felt like and what you did to start this off.
Yes, well, when you asked the question, then I had that reaction, and I'm like, I just kind of, I hang my head and I'm like, oh, really, Spirit? Like, really, this is where we need to go? So yes, that was my reaction, but I'll tell you, 15 years ago, my friend gave me a journal, December of 2004. This is for your book. So it's been that process of 15 years, and then actually having someone to say, are you going to be accountable to this? And then setting the dates, put the dates on the calendar so that you can actually go there. Even if you don't hit that date, it's you get that sense of urgency to do it. Mm-hmm. Then of course you gave me the write the outline and do it this way, and I'm like, nope, gotta handwrite it all. So because that's my process. I love to write, and I handwrite, and I journal, and so that's always been my process, is to handwrite it, and then I put it on the computer. So that was but that day, that reaction, you all saw it. You all of us on the call were like, oh, wow. So yeah, this is where I get to go next.
Yeah. I think you like literally felt like you were going to throw up, right?
Yeah. Well, it's that like, when you get that gut punch, that, that feeling. So yeah, I never have. But that is like everyone has some way that their intuitive self lets them know this is it. It's not a question. It's not very subtle either. We have subtle intuitive things that go in our mind, but that gut reaction of this is where you're going, whether you like it or not, whether I think I can or not, which was where having you as the coach coaching me through to keep me going and to keep pushing. Because as it showed up for me, that's how you showed up, was to go, okay, well, let's walk through that and then keep going.
Yeah. So I think in the beginning it was so committing to it and then coming up with some dates. I remember the first question asked is, okay, when do you want to have the book in your hands? You're like, what?
Yes, that's what, right?
And I can't remember exactly, but I think we initially picked like maybe like mid-summer, like June-ish, wasn't it?
Yes.
And then we had to push it out as we went along. And that's the thing I share with people is like, just because you pick a date, that ideally that's the date. But if it happens to be like it takes a little bit more time or maybe less time, I've had to go both ways with clients. But we picked the date and you committed to it. And then talk if you can remember some of the things that you did to really commit to it. Because I remember a few, but I'm curious if you remember some of the things that we kind of had you do like that made you really commit to the world, not just like between us.
What did I do?
I'll tell you some of the things you did if you don't remember.
Yeah, like it's kind of a blur now. Like so many times of doing it and reading it. Yeah. What did I do? I don't.
Because I remember the biggest things that was the what made it really real for you was number one, talking about it in your live shows to your audience because you do a weekly show, and then sending it out in an email to your audience, and obviously telling everyone in your circle of influence. I think those were the biggest things for you that you're like, wow, I'm actually gonna commit to it to more than just my coach, commit to it to everybody else.
Yeah. So there was the sequence of that as I committed. I told a few people in my circle. I did not tell very many people because a lot of people when it was published said, I didn't know you were doing that.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't tell anybody because I just didn't want the questions to distract me from what I was doing. Mm-hmm. I didn't actually talk about it on my live show, I don't think, until toward the end.
Okay. Yeah.
When I was coming closer to the time of actually publishing it. Because I couldn't even tell people yet because it was so close and personal to my heart that I wasn't willing to just put it out there like that yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I kept it close. I kept it here close for a while to do that. And even my mom, she's like, wow, we have an author in the family. I didn't know you were doing that. I was like, well, and it was not personal. It wasn't personal to any one person. I just didn't announce it.
Yeah. Can you talk about like the process of writing it and maybe what you had to go through? Because I think that there's actual physical process of writing it, carving out the time and things like that. But then there's also the emotional process of, thinking that you can do this and overcoming any blocks or those little things we tell ourselves that I can't do this or who am I to be writing a book?
Qualified.
Yeah, what makes me like, who's going to want to read what I have to say? Can you talk about kind of those two aspects, like the emotional side, and then maybe we can get into the logistical side of how you made it work with everything else?
Absolutely. There was a part of, I'm really doing this. The emotions of, can I really do this? There's a long-standing tape that will go in my head about how can I say what hasn't already been said? Because there's so many books. And then the reality is, well, there are so many books. How many books do I own on the same topic? Because people say it a different way. So some of my own coaching, some of my own mental coaching of, oh, I'm not really good enough to do this. Yeah, you are, because you have a lot to say. And then I would sit down and say a prayer. Just get myself centered in that. And I'd say a prayer and then allow that just consciousness, that stream of consciousness writing. So when I look back at some of my writing, I look at it and I go kind of sideways. My head would go sideways. What were you saying there? Because it's, that's like that stream of consciousness. And I would have to go then and add some context to it and go,
Mm-hmm.
what really, Spirit? What was that about? And so there was a lot of, there was a lot of stop and start, I think, to it, because I'm really putting this on paper, and the writing was not the hard part. That was not the hardest part for me, because I like to write. So that became pretty easy. So that's what I tell somebody. If you want to write a book and you don't know where to begin, just begin. You can brainstorm a bunch of ideas, or you can sit down and say a prayer and ask the universe to help you, and then just write, because it'll all come together.
So then what was the hardest part for you then?
The hardest part was actually the actual formatting, and that, because me and technology are, I write, I handwrite, and I coach, and I do other things that are tangible, hands-on, but me and the computer, I'm learning. I got lots and lots of learning.
Yeah. And that's
there's still some formatting even in the book that when we finally got to that end, and you said to me, and I realized right around that same time, that there's just a point that it's good enough. It may not be exactly perfect, but it's good enough. So there was still some formatting in there that I couldn't figure out how to change. And oh my God, I was ready to pull my hair out by the end. And by the end, I'm like, now I just want to be done. Like, I just want to give birth to this thing because I'm done.
Yes.
So
Come out as is.
At that part toward the end of like, OMG, what the hell is next? Because God, I just have to walk away from my computer and then come back to it, because I couldn't figure it out. And I'd ask for help, or I'd go to YouTube. So those were some of the great places I went. I'd ask other people that know, or I'd go to YouTube and type in the question that I had. And YouTube was very helpful.
Yeah.
There are people that know Word doc way better than me. And then each time I would upload to the Kindle Direct Publishing where I published it, it would change the format.
You're like, what?
I'd look at it, and I'd look at my document, I'd look at the upload, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
It just happened.
So no matter where someone's at, go ahead.
That was more frustrating than the actual writing of it and tweaking it and getting it edited. So that was the other piece of that emotional roller coaster. Circling back to your emotion question, when I had someone else read it, because nobody had read it before I sent it to the editor. And that was the first, like, somebody's going to read my writing, and are they going to like it? Or is it going to be okay? Is it acceptable? And there was that whole dialogue that happened even when I started came again when I sent it off to the editor. Yeah. And she gave me some really great feedback.
That's great.
And she really liked it. So yeah.
I think that's one of the most challenging aspects of publishing a book is, we have our thoughts in our mind, just like anything as we do as a coach, right? Publishing a video online, writing a post online, it's a small version of doing this, right? But when we put something out there, our thoughts, in black and white, where you can't change it, for the world to read and judge, because that's what they do. It's scary.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, it can.
And what I like about it is someone who admittedly says, you're not the tech savvy person. It's like you said, you literally hand wrote your book and then transferred it over to the computer, like from your notes. So, I mean, that in of itself took a lot of time, and you figured that aspect out. So no matter where someone's at, like it's possible. It's just coming down to knowing that they want to do it, committing to do it, coming up with a time frame and a plan, and then executing on it, because it wasn't easy along the way. And you started to highlight some of that.
And unless you're disciplined to do all that on your own, I wouldn't, on my own, I'm not going to do that.
So what got you through to actually finishing it?
Being accountable. Absolutely. Being accountable. Coming to the call every week with you and going, okay, this is where I'm at, or this is what I've done, or this is what I haven't done. But no matter how many detours I took, I still stayed on some track to go forward. And there were times that you lovingly said, okay, let me hug you while kicking the butt.
Right.
To keep going because there's not an option to stop. So once you remove that option to stop and you make the commitment, then you just do that. But being accountable to someone else, I think that's the biggest difference. Someone who cares enough will hold me to my best. And just see it happen that way.
That's a good way of putting it.
So
you wrote the book, you transferred it over. Talk briefly about some of the logistics, like how did you publish it? Some of the bullet points of what you found that you needed to people like, oh my God, well, who do I publish it with? And things like that. Like what direction did you go down there so people can understand that aspect?
I'm an Amazon fan, so I went through Kindle Direct Publishing because I love Amazon. So of course, since then, there are many, many other companies out there that do self-publishing through Amazon, doing Kindle, doing a book. There's no charge for any of it unless I pay for books. And I think that's my favorite part. It's like, it was easy for all intents and purposes. In my frustration, it was easy. And I don't have to pay for anything unless I order it. I can sell everything through Amazon and just get a royalty check from them, or whatever you call that, commission check, whatever they call that.
Mm-hmm.
But the only money out of my pocket was when I ordered the book. And they walk you through it. They have all kinds of programs and all kinds of how-to and videos. And of course, I found a lot of that after all my frustration. So that's what I would let somebody know now. That's all there. You just have to search for it. I get in my own way with my frustration. And I miss things that are right in front of my face because I already have that belief that it's frustrating to me.
Right.
So that's something for me to just shift and change and know where I need to ask for help.
Absolutely. So that was with the publishing aspect of it. And then there's finding the editor, getting the cover art as well. Talk about those briefly.
Yes. So the editor was through Upwork. I had a friend who had published her own book and she gave me a name. I couldn't find her, but I went to Upwork, which is a freelance site. And I just typed in what I was looking for and the kind of person I was looking for to edit my book. Because I wanted someone aligned with what I do, not just someone who's pretty linear or whatever. I just need them to be aligned. And then 4 people immediately replied, and I just picked one of the 4, and then more kept coming in. I thought, oh gosh, I'm going to now get confused. Let me just go with my heart, pick the one. And I sent her a piece of the work, I think the forward, and she read it and gave me a quote. So that part was pretty simple, finding the person that's right for you.
Mm-hmm.
Can search and look for a person to hire. I found it easier to put in what I was looking for and then have them come to me with a bid.
That's great.
That's the editing part. The cover, Pixabay? I would type in different titles.
Pixabay is the website name?
Pixabay, P-I-X.
Okay, P-I-X.
It's like a Shutterfly. What's it called?
Yeah, like Shutterfly.
And they tell you straight up if you can use it for anything, or if it's patented where you have to pay for it or whatever. So
okay.
So I had laid it out in Kindle, a different cover. When I laid it out on the book, this book, to cover the whole book, it was different. It laid out different. So then I went back to the drawing board to find another picture. And then when I saw just the sunrise and the arrow, I was like, here's your direction. Yeah. Here's the sunrise. Waking up. You're waking up. Shedding light into the unconscious part of us. So when I saw it, that's when I was like, that's it. That's the one. And it just laid out across the whole cover. There are different formats through Kindle Direct. There's different ways you can lay out the cover. So I had to find the picture that fit the one I wanted to lay it out on.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, let me put a plug in for you because Jeff's idea was in the cover to put the bubble.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't lay it out here on the cover, but the bubble here, the text bubble, because so many of us are familiar with texting and WTF. And So I still got to do that on the inside and give you a little honor there.
Yeah. Yeah. So the cool part is that and here's what I'm hearing along the way, right? It's a series of decisions along the way, right? Starting with the decision to write the book, all the way through, like you said, there's a lot of options for different publishing. There's a lot of options for covers, and then, editors, and those are the main components of the book. But it's just, it's deciding, okay, I'm going to write the book. What am I going to do it for? All right, who's going to be my editor? Who's going to be my cover designer? What is the cover design? What is the title, right? Because I remember we had little sessions with the group each week, and it was just like at every different phase, there's decisions you need to make. And you can't move on until you make those little decisions. And in some instances, there's going to be a lot of different, like you said, with the editors, a bunch of people, came at you, but you just had to okay, I'm going to start with these. I'm going to let my heart speak to me, and then I'm going to go with it. That's the only way you were to be able to get through it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Once I got to the Kindle publishing, I couldn't publish it without a title. And that's where we all got together and honed in on the title.
Yeah.
And there was something else I was going to add to that. When you were talking about the committing to writing, because I know there are many people who have a book inside of them. It's just waiting to come out, and we get scared. I had a whole lot of story about putting it out there and being seen and heard and in black and white.
Mm.
Pick a topic. That's what I would tell somebody. Pick your topic. You already know what you want to write.
Exactly.
Inside of you. Now it's about having it come out and be in manifest.
Yeah. It's huge.
So
yes.
And every time I say I've published, or my husband, because if I won't say it, he'll go tell everybody, she's an author, she's published a book. And any networking event, any place that I'm at, and I say that I've published a book, people clap. And I think, what? Why? I'm okay with the clapping. I'm happy with that. But I wonder why that's such a big deal. And my husband said, because most people want to write something and they won't do it.
Yeah.
And then actually publish it. So, yeah.
Huge.
So, yeah, it's huge. And I think it was huge for me. And then now that I'm here, I can hear where I want to oh, it's not that big a deal. And it really is.
Yeah. No, it is a big deal because everyone has a message. Everyone has something to say, but very few are bold enough to, number one, say it out loud. And number two, write it in black and white and just say, here, this is it. I can't change it. That's why it's a big deal,
Yes. And then to not criticize my own writing. That was the next step. Now it's in writing. Okay, I got my book. I have a bookmark in here because I've been reading my own book.
Yeah.
And to not criticize it because I've already evolved.
Yes, you're gonna find that.
So to not go back and criticize my own book, to read it for what it is and where I was at, and not pick it apart. So yeah.
Just for what it's worth, that's a good sign that you've evolved. My book's now 10 years old, and I'll read through it. I'm like, oh my God. And it's still really good, but I've evolved since then. And you're exactly right. Yeah.
And it's incredibly valuable still. And there's still people that are going to need to read what you wrote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was reading Wayne Dyer has a new book. He died. Wayne Dyer died. And he's someone that is in my genre. He handwrote all of his books. I'm like, yes. So he did the same way. I'm like, I'm just following someone along the mentor path.
It's not just me.
He handwrote it all and then would do the same thing and put it on the computer.
Yeah. Talk about now that you've launched the book. I mean, we've only been, like I said, a month or so. You've had a couple launch parties, but talk about what you've seen in terms of how this is going to start to really propel your business forward.
I am quite impressed with how many people buy it because they know me. Whether they will read it or read it because they know me and they get a different insight into me. So it's definitely a conversation topic. The title alone is a conversation topic.
Yep.
So I was telling someone yesterday, I never defined what the F word is. But everyone always goes right to there. It's like, like, what if we just made it wake the future up, wake your fabulous up, you can make it mean anything you want to. But so it's a great conversation piece and propelling my business forward, because now I have something I can actually go, hey, can I come and talk to your women or your organization? And it places me in a position of, in somebody's mind, that I'm an expert.
That's it, isn't it?
I think, really? I'm an expert? And I absolutely am an expert. And so for me, that's about owning it. Yes, it's in writing, but whether I wrote it or not, I'm an expert in my field.